This is the Steam Deck. Sorry, wrong hand. This is the Steam Deck, Valve's new do-everything portable gaming console. Want to play AAA games on the go? Want to relive your glory days with some retro classic emulation? Want to stream games from your PlayStation 4 or 5? Want to dual boot into Windows for some reason? Want to open up a browser? Wait, I wasn't. Okay, I think the button is. Seriously, I've had this thing for a couple weeks now and I have not been able to put it down. There's a lot to love here, and a little bit that can use some work.
There it is.
No, I just said it's not perfect. Let's just take a look. So Valve, the multi-zillionaire company that owns Steam, seemingly got bored counting their money and decided to release a portable gaming console. It released back at the end of February this year, and supply has been super limited, with Valve shipping out about 3 Steam Decks a week for a total of I think like 12 so far. But I finally got mine, and this thing is awesome.
We happy? We happy.
It comes in 3 variants, priced at $399, $529, and $649. Storage sizes are the main differentiators, but the most expensive one does add an anti-glare screen for your money. With that being said, I'd go for one of the cheaper ones since storage can be upgraded later on, if you have a little bit of technical know-how. The included case is nice, although these zippers feel like they'll last about as long as I do at a social event.
I don't need friends, they disappoint me.
But don't worry, I'm sure 1 or 2 vendors on Amazon will put one up for sale. What the? The build is really nice with a solid filling device that doesn't creak or croak, has about 30 different programmable buttons, 2 trackpads that can be used as mouse for scrolling with some decent haptics, a 7-inch touchscreen IPS LCD, and a micro SD card slot. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM, Bluetooth, microphones, and an included unremovable USB-C charging cable.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Seriously, Valve, you got like everything else right. It's all powered by a custom AMD chip that is surprisingly capable. So yeah, it's a really well-built machine for a first-time product. Now Valve does have previous experience in the hardware department with the Steam Link and this abomination. I'm just kidding, I love my Steam controller. But this thing really could have been much worse.
No, God!
The dual front-facing speakers sound really good and get really loud, but have pretty much no bass. You also probably won't really use the touchpads on the front, but they do work great as a mouse when you're in desktop mode. So initial setup is kinda janky. Look, this thing is pretty much a portable PC, and the majority of people buying this are going to know their way around installs and have little issue setting it up, but it's not just plug and play like a console like, say, the Switch. Oh, speaking of the Switch, here's a quick size comparison. This thing is huge, but actually more comfortable to hold because of the contoured grips. The more I've used this thing, the more it became obvious that the only way to get the most out of it is to dive in a little bit and install some third-party software. Like getting the streaming from your PlayStation to work. It's not that difficult, but it's not super easy either. Even after I followed a guide online, I'm still having some screen flickering when I stream games. To be fair, that's probably something I screwed up during the install, but my point is it's not super straightforward. And that's pretty much the issue if you want to do anything else like dual boot Windows or get Xbox Game Pass working. I say all that to say that you'll really only get out of this what you put in. And there's plenty of guides on YouTube. But I do applaud Valve making this as streamlined as they possibly could. It looks really clean. They have nice touches like the quick settings buttons on either side of the screen that you can use to adjust things like screen brightness, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and they've even thrown in some cool stuff like a power and frame rate limiter so you can extend battery life if you want to. And I love the subtle sound effects they've added as you navigate the menu and boot up the system. They've also organized the home screen really nicely so you can browse the Steam store, look through your library, and see games that work great, games that may have issues, and games that flat out do not work. Speaking of games, let's explore that a little. I don't have a huge Steam library, but out of the 70 or so games I have, only 21 have the little green check mark from Valve that says they should run without issue. Now Valve hasn't tested every single game, and there's been a lot of people online getting games to work that Valve said don't work, but it's pretty hit or miss. My experience so far has been a little all over the map. For some reason, my first thought when I started playing games on this was how great it would be with some simulation games like City Skylines, which then immediately crashed my system and required a hard reboot. For a couple other examples, LA Noire would start, but then the screen went black with just audio playing. Don't Starve runs great, but there's no audio at all. But man, when this thing works, it's freaking amazing. Seeing this thing run AAA games like Rise of the Tomb Raider, Dead Space, and God of War just feels unreal. And that's not even mentioning the emulation. This is officially the new emulation king. I don't have a huge collection of older games to play, but it works great, and I found the buttons automatically map correctly 99% of the time for a really awesome emulation experience. And if you really get in there and do some work with your setup, you can get it looking really clean. So let's talk about the battery life. So far, it's been surprisingly pretty good. Valve estimates a pretty wide range, and from what I've seen, it's absolutely correct. Your battery life is really going to vary depending on the game you're running, screen brightness, refresh rate, etc., etc. You can kill this thing in an hour and a half running something like Horizon Zero Dawn at max settings, or you can make it last about 8 hours running something like an emulated game. So your experience is probably going to be different than mine, but I think the battery life is good enough to have a good experience. And if you wear down your battery too fast, it recharges pretty quickly with the included Type-C charger. One other thing I wanted to mention was the repairability and replacement parts Valve is offering. You can pretty much buy any part for this thing online if you have any issues, from buttons to a new battery to a new front casing and even a new screen. I think it's awesome that Valve is doing this, and it goes a long way in right to repair, and more companies should follow suit. So nice job, Valve. Very cool. So what's the final verdict? Well, as you can probably tell, I'm a little torn. This thing is awesome, mind-blowing even, until it's not. I expect bugs and software issues anytime there's a new product launch, and they're definitely here, but I also expect this to be ironed out over time with software updates. I know it's already come a long way with updates in the few short months it's been out. There's a lot of games that run great already, and I also expect that more and more games will be patched or updated to work on the Steam Deck, which will make for an even better experience. But those are things that will happen in the future, and as it stands, the Steam Deck isn't quite living up to its full potential, but it's so close already. It's really hard not to be pumped about this thing. Playing AAA PC games on a portable device is just an incredible experience. And that's not to mention the built-in PC stuff like Linux, Windows, and the ability to run rock-solid emulation. I think if the price is not an issue, and if you've got a decent amount of Steam games already built up in your library that you'd like to take on the go, and you don't mind or enjoy some tinkering, the Steam Deck is a no-brainer. It's the future, but it's here now in an almost complete package that's good enough to keep you happy for a long time going forward. So that's my thoughts on the Steam Deck. Do you have your Steam Deck yet, or are you still waiting on a pre-order? Any cool stuff you found that I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments. And if you liked the video, please hit that subscribe button as it really helps out. Until next time.